coming along to today's webinar. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands from which each of our online attendees are from. And I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders, past and present, and extend that same respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples with us here today. By way of introduction, my name's Richard Wilson. I'm the Business Development Manager for Datacom IT. And joining me today also from Datacom IT is Christine Centofanti, who you'll see in the top right of screen, who's our marketing manager and has been responsible for coordinating today's event and the invitations that have gone out. Also from Datacom IT is Roger Mills. Roger Mills is Datacom IT's digital preservation consultant. And I know we have a lot of our existing clients or Recollect clients here today, so I'm sure all of you are familiar and have worked with Roger as part of your implementation, as he also acts in the capacity of project manager for our Recollect implementations. But a special welcome and thank you very much to Rachel Jackson. She's the Librarian of Strategic Projects with the City of Stirling Library in Western Australia, and she'll be providing an overview today on their use of Recollect for their art and local history collections. So just I guess a little bit of overview of how today's presentation will work. So Roger will first be giving a bit of a general introduction on the core features of Recollect, followed then by Rachel providing an overview of how they're using it for their, as I said, for their art and special collections in the library at the City of Stirling. For those of you who are not familiar with who Datacom IT are, we I guess an organisation with over 40 years of history in providing specialist digitisation services. So we work with lots of, in the GLAM sector, digitising all types of rare and unique material. But sitting alongside those services are a couple of other products, one of which is Recollect. So Datacom IT aren't the developers of the Recollect product. We're the Australian sales and implementation partner. Recollect, in fact, is developed by a New Zealand company very similar to Datacom IT. And whilst it was originally first developed as a solution for their clients to host and store content on, the success of that product meant that it has now, or back in 2019, became a standalone software as a service organisation or company in its own right. And since that time in 2019, they've been focused on implementing and the product or selling the product into the US, whilst Datacom IT have been working here with our Australian clients. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So during today's presentation, if anyone has any queries or questions, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see there's a chat icon. Please feel free, as the thought comes to mind, whatever query you have, to drop that question into that chat area. And at the end, we'll come back and I'll review each of those queries and pose them to either Roger, Rachel or myself to answer. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Roger to commence today's presentation.
Thank you, Richard. I'm guessing everyone can see my first slide here.
Yes, we can.
We can, and I just noticed, sorry, Roger, just before we start, there is a couple of people who said they're having trouble connecting, but I can see other people have connected. So hopefully, I'm not sure what your situation is, but everything seems to be in working order. So maybe if you leave the presentation and come back in, that might help, as everyone else seems to be able to access or see our presentation today. All right, Roger, sorry.
That's okay. Thanks so much, Richard, for the introductions and welcome to country. I'm coming to you all from Gadigal land of the Eora Nation here in Sydney. Look, this webinar is a subject pretty close to my heart, I'd have to say, particularly how technologies like Recollect, they be special collections in a university or local history and artworks in public libraries, as Rachel will be talking about. It's really the ability of a system to facilitate really engaging experiences with digital content that draws users into those experiences. And there's a great deal of research about the level of engagement with an online platform and what a user or a viewer gets out. I'm also super excited that Rachel can join us today. So welcome, Rachel. the City of Stirling have done amazing work with showcasing their collections of visual and public art, which is why Rachel was my first choice in inviting her to be a guest speaker today. Having looked at the registrations, as Richard was just saying, there's a number of you joining us today, and welcome everyone. I'm glad to see that there are so many current Recollect users on the call. So seeing that early in the week, I thought I'd focus on what I'm going to present, not only an overview of Recollect, but perhaps a little bit more of a dive into a user's perspective and a little bit more of a user group approach, I guess. But for those of you joining us today who don't know anything about Recollect whatsoever, the best way to think about the system is that it's an online digital asset management and a collection management system as one whole unified platform. So what that means is that it brings together what those two systems usually do as separate technology. So it stores all of your digital assets in a database and performs as a digital asset management system, as well as managing all of your physical collections through digital records that contain data about those physical objects' location. Recollect is really based around what is described as a linked data model, in which it connects digital assets with contextual information. And that allows you to facilitate multiple relationships between records and creators and activities in a similar way to the way that the RIC or Records in Context framework works as well, although it's not exactly the same, but it's very, very similar. It's based around these three pillars of discovery, access, engagement. Discovery by being able to view lots of different content and read descriptive metadata. Access through being able to access it from any internet connected device. And importantly, engaging with it through moderated community contributions, tagging of images, suggested edits and comments, and the like. All of these things I'm going to touch on throughout the presentation. Some of the basics of the service is, of the system is it's software as a service or SaaS. It's hosted at Amazon Web Services in Sydney. You get unlimited storage capacity with unlimited users. Also comes with role-based access and tiered privileges, which means that you can provide access to only those who you want to see particular types of content. It has Trove integration and includes OAI, PMH, metadata harvesting. So if you want, this is often more of a museums thing, but if you want other organizations to be able to harvest metadata from your site, Recollect will also facilitate that as well. Now, I was just saying about the research that's being undertaken relating to online engagement, and I guess as anyone who's maybe seen my presentations before, I do like to start with a pithy research quote, and I think this is a good one because it it talks to the way that virtual exhibitions and immersive digital experiences really are carving out the way to experience digital art, online art these days. It really does offer new opportunities to interact and understand and appreciate the artworks in a way that is different to seeing an artwork in an exhibition space at a gallery. Having said that, research also points to the fact that viewers that see digital artworks online often will go into the museum or gallery or library to actually go and see those objects as well. So there's a dual use there for both special collections and artworks. I'm going to take you through some live sites and some of the things that Recollect can do in terms of engaging with digital art. This one here, and I'm guessing you can see my browser, like someone will tell me if you can't, is a painting from the State Library of South Australia by Angus French, somewhere between 1822 and 1886, a view toward the port across the Adelaide Plains. You've got all of the tools on this left-hand side, which allows you to be able to zoom in on a image like this. If it was text, you'd be able to show the OCR transcription. You can download a derivative or access copy of this, a lower resolution copy. You can star that, which means that it's going to add it to your personal collection if you're at a member level registration with the system. You can contact the administrators about this particular item, and if you're a student or researcher, you can then cite this item under the APA style. But what is also good about the way that Recollect provides this level of engagement is the linking to Google Street View. So in this case, you can see that if you just drop the little character in there, you can actually see the location of where that painting was originally painted from. And I think that just really not only gives you that sort of level of, engagement with your mouse and feeling like you're sort of, in a sense, viewing that same scene that Angus French did back in 1822, but it provides that sort of context to where that location is today and what it looks like. You can see quite clearly that it's a different look to what George French painted at that time. Recollect also offers some good opportunities to showcase time-based art. The UNSW Recollect site, particularly with the real-time dance archives, provides a really good glimpse into showcasing time-based media. You can see here they've got a custom search bar, which means that we can configure this so that it just searches the collection that you want to feature here, rather than going through the entire site. So if we just look at one of these videos of these dance pieces, just move this forward a little bit. You can really get a sense of the dance performances and clips that UNSW put together for the Real-Time Dance Archive. Now, the Western Sydney University have done a great job too with their collections, and they came to us with quite a specific use case of wanting to bring in 3 different business units from the university: the archives, the art collection, and the special collections, and to house them all under one site. And so if we click through to their site, you'll see each of these collections here. So if we click into the art collection, it'll bring up just the art collection itself, provide you with some information, and then you've got your collection widgets underneath that. And so this is themed content around a particular topic, or in this case, art, or the art collections. If you have a look at the Parramatta Artist Studio collection, they're quite an innovative group, artists in Sydney, very active in the art scene here. You can see along here on that right-hand side, you've got all of the metadata that is structured in the metadata templates. And I'm going to talk to metadata templates very shortly. But as part of the implementation process we take you through, we look at the data that you've got perhaps from a previous system, whether it's Civica or Ulma or whatever system it is, and we start to think, well, how do you want to structure that metadata at a Recollect item view? And what that linked metadata model allows you to do is actually look at other items that are related to this particular item, for instance, sculpture. So if you wanted to have a look at all the sculpture works, it'll bring up all of the sculpture works in the collection. But that could be a person, it could be a place, it could be the painter or a sculptor, or an event or an exhibition as well. I thought I'd touch on this because I think this is kind of speaks to what we were talking about earlier in terms of engaging experiences with art and digital collections. This one here with Wesley College, using the Matterport software, which Recollect works with, allows you to provide that virtual walkthrough of an exhibition, in this case an Indigenous exhibition. So you get that real kind of located sense of being in that exhibition space, and by using your cursor, you kind of it's giving you that sense of you being there as well. You can of course click one of those links and it'll bring up all of the information about that particular painting. Now, for any of the users, the current Recollect users on the call at the moment, it's quite easy to set these up, particularly in the templates. Now, what we're looking at here, and this is where I was talking about touching on some more of the user forum type parts of the presentation today. I'm just showing you how you might set up a virtual exhibition in an item template. For those who haven't seen an item template before, this is what it looks like in Recollect. This is what structures the metadata on that right-hand side of the item view that I was just showing you. And so when you do your scans in for Matterport, it'll provide you with a link that you can simply add to the web link from the template itself. But here you can see there's related collections and events, and you could have the artist and people and whatever other connections you wanted to make with that particular item. Now, the Matterport software provides a very easy way to do this, to set this up. While there's different levels of users, most of them are paid users, but there is a starting point, which is a free service, which you can basically download the app from here. It'll kind of talk you through doing scans on your mobile phone. So it's a good way to start experimenting with Matterport if you wanted to set up a virtual exhibition for some of your works. So what you do is you take scans on your mobile phone, then you upload those scans to Matterport platform. It stitches together a 3D tour of that space, and then it'll provide you with that URL or HTML code that you can then add to either the web link or the HTML page in the page editor as well. So please have a go at this, because I think it's an excellent way to demonstrate art exhibitions and showcase some of the wonderful work that I know university libraries and council libraries have. And it's particularly useful because, I know that myself from working in a public library, that there are a lot of artworks that the public couldn't get to see because they're either in the mayor's office or in the council chambers. And this is a way of showing that art that the community really owns to a broader audience. So they might be able to get to see inside the mayoral chambers, actually see that artwork on the wall and get to experience that art of the local community as well. Another really useful way to demonstrate physical objects in Recollect is through the 3D view. Now, Recollect allows, without having to download any third-party software, the ability to see a model in 3D. Well, this is an artwork First Nations implement. You can really see there the textures and the colors on that implement, which would be really useful for researchers and anyone who's interested in that type of finer detail about an object. But equally, this could be a sculpture, or it could be a trophy, or any object that you could have scanned. Recollect will ingest those OBJ files, and then it's quite a simple process to set the item up in the back end. Recollect also comes with a exhibition module, which allows you to create digital exhibitions online that move through in much the same way as a slideshow works through. This is the back end of it, and you can see it's very simple. It's almost like adding metadata to an item in Recollect. You've got your exhibition notice, your exhibition slide, the introduction, slide 2. You can add your hex codes and font types and the rest of it. And if we just click through to this, it'll take us to one of Recollect's exhibitions. Come on, here we go. So here we have the natural history of British insects. With a warning if you're not a fan of insects. And so here we have the menu. In this case, there's only one item in the menu, but you can also then click through each of the individual artworks with all of the information about that particular artwork. Also hosts audio and video as well. So here we're providing context to these butterflies. Really beautiful way to showcase digital artworks. And that can be hosted on your homepage as well. Recollect also has the cart function. So this is very useful for particularly organizations that may want to sell prints of artworks. Here we have the Denver Public Library. Of course, Recollect's not only in Australia and New Zealand, but is in the last couple of years branched out into the United States. So here we have an artwork that if you wanted to purchase this artwork, you just add that to the cart. So if you wanted a high resolution file for your personal use only, it would be only $25. But if you wanted high resolution that couldn't use copyright, or if you wanted to actually monetize this yourself, you could pay the extra up to $500. This is US dollars, by the way. Then you just add them to your cart as I've done, and then you can see the cart, and then you can check the cart out, and it'll ask you for some information and then take you straight through to the purchasing options, which is basically the payment gateway, and that is PayPal. In this instance, it's actually Chase, which is an American bank, but for Australian customers, it's PayPal. I really love this functionality. It allows you to be able to create your own private collections of artworks, or anything really, whether it's local studies, whether it might be just publications or photographs. And I showed you earlier, when I showed you that star on the left-hand side menu there, when you click that star with a particular item, it then adds it to all of your bookmarks. And then you can create your own collections from this point onwards as well, as I've done with the art collection one here. And this is really useful for researchers who may be coming back to the Recollect site on a number of occasions and want to be able to access bookmarks, but also it has a number of different applications as well. Students that are studying, they might be looking for particular items that they want to come back to as well as part of their assignment or something like that for teachers. And if teachers are using Recollect in lesson plans, which they are increasingly doing as well, they can store their lesson plan items in a collection and then automatically just come straight back to it. If they're projecting Recollect into a classroom, it's all there for you. I'll just touch very briefly on the engagement functionality, because we've touched on this in a number of different webinars already. But the community uploads is one that this particular client, City of Ride Libraries, they wanted to make quite a feature of their contributions. So they created a static page in it. So they provide lots of information about being part of their local history, what type of material that they'd like you to contribute. Then they've created the actual item types themselves, that if you click one of those, it'll take you through. You have to be a member to submit an item. And then it just provides that basic level of metadata and confirming that you've got the right to the copyright there as well. But there's other things here, such as tagging photographs. Very easy to do, just add a tag to the actual person itself. And it'll come up for moderation by the administrator. And once that's accepted, it'll appear on the actual item itself. Where there's a notable person, in this case, Enid Wilson, who was a previous principal, we've got her information page, information item hub, if you like, of all of the information here about her time at the school, and then all of the digital assets that are related to her time at the school as well. So here's an example of you providing that contextual information with the actual assets itself. This is a nice little unique function that my colleague Jess, who I work with on the Recollect implementation, Jess is an archivist by trade, but she set up this then and now sliders. Again, this is a really lovely way to interact with content online, giving that perspective of a building, a pub in 1962, and see the old cars there, and then what it looks like, what it looked like in 2022. Oral histories, again, this is something that a lot of our Recollect clients want to make use of as well. Again, this is an information page, and you can click through to the links where you can see Beryl, or hear Beryl talking. It's an oral history, not a video. You can also chapter tag oral histories now. So if you just wanted to hear Beryl, she's actually a famous author in New Zealand. If you just wanted to hear her talking about swimming.
Yeah, and then our local river, the council, in its wisdom,
you can hear her talking about swimming. So it's a really useful way to be able to really get an understanding of what someone's talked about over, say, an hour worth. Of course, you can also add the transcripts there as well as attachments as supporting material. That's about all I've got for you today. But just in summary, what I want to show you really is how comprehensive Recollect is as a collection management and a digital asset management to handle both your digital and physical collections. Got that functionality, your exhibition module to display digital exhibitions. It supports multimedia files with highly configurable metadata templates, as I showed you before too. That role-based access, so you get to choose who you provide access to what content. And it's very flexible, so it means that administrators, particularly from enterprise level up, can create new item types when new content comes in for accession, and that strong engagement tools allows your community to really take authorship of your collections as well. We see when your local community actually feels like they're represented in your Recollect site, that's when you get most engagement as well. But I know Rachel's been patiently waiting in the wings here, so we're all looking forward to seeing what she's got to say. So over to you, Rachel.
Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen. Let me know when that comes up, Roger.
That's good. That's up now. Yep.
Yep. And then my presentation should be there.
No, we're just getting a desktop there. Now we got it. Yep.
Now you got it? Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to showcase the City of Stirling's arts and history collection. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which I sit, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay respect to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, the tradition and the culture and hopes of Aboriginal Australia. So today I'm going to talk about how we brought together multiple collections into a single discovery layer. I'll cover some of the challenges and opportunities, the migration process, and then showcase some of the ways we've used Recollect to highlight areas of our collection. We implemented Recollect in 2025, and there were several strategic goals behind moving to a new arts and history system. There was a clear directive from Council and the Executive to consolidate and reduce the number of systems across the city. We needed to maximise value and reduce complexity. Whatever we chose needed to be flexible, scalable, with room to innovate. Both the community history and arts were using different systems and neither was fully meeting their needs. So we needed something that gave our staff searchability, online storage, and gave our customers better accessibility and self-service. With collections scattered across applications, spreadsheets, hard drives, we wanted a single source of truth. Our aim was to bring these collections together while still keeping their distinct identity and discovery pathways. And I'll show you later how Recollect made that possible. It's worth mentioning that several things happened all at once. At the same time that we received the budget and the go-ahead for the new system, the business unit was restructured, a new history team was formed, and the arts team joined us. So we increased our history team by 3 full-time equivalents, but at the same time, we lost a lot of corporate memory when our museum curator retired after 15 years on the job. So during this time, we were building a new system, we were building the team, and we're bringing our people together all at the same time. We started with 4 collections and really 2 different collection cultures, each with its own descriptive priorities and user expectations. Our visual art collection covers painting, works on paper, sculpture, textiles, ceramics, photography and digital art, with an emphasis on contemporary WA artists. The public art includes our sculptures, integrated artworks, murals, play-friendly and functional works. The Community History and Mount Flora Museum collections bring together historical objects, documents, photographs, and audio and video. Art-focused collections, I find, tend to emphasise the artist, the medium, technique, and location, whereas history-focused collections prioritise people, dates, events. And the opportunity for us was to avoid a one-size-fits-all approach while still delivering a single search experience, and to connect the collection so users can move from an artwork to an artist and then to a related place or historical photograph. Before Recollect, our collections didn't live in one place. They were scattered across at least 6 separate repositories, and that fragmentation was a big part of why we needed a single platform. The arts materials sat in Art Archive with accession records stored as hard copies. On the history side, our catalogue records were in Mosaic, alongside a number of other standalone spreadsheets that different staff had built up over the years. Beyond the systems, a lot of our digital files, images, scans and footage were spread across external hard drives, internal corporate drives, and various online photo and film repositories. This meant that the same item could be described in several places with no single source of truth and no easy way for staff or the public to find things. So bringing all 6 of these into Recollect Arts and History Collection gave us one consolidated. For migration, as part of choosing Recollect, we spoke with others who'd migrated their data and learned from their experience. Migration raised familiar issues, and I'm sure many of you have worked through these. We had inconsistent terminology, missing or duplicate records, and historical cataloguing practices. The arts team had already done some of the work as their collection had already moved to a digital platform and was relatively small at 300 items. The history collection was spread across multiple places, so we needed to spend a lot of time normalising the inconsistent data and removing duplicates, starting with the data in Mosaic and then working through the spreadsheets. It was a lot of work, but thankfully we had an amazing team who excelled at Excel. The Datacom IT team gave us extensive training and support to set up our item type templates, and these templates became the basis for the migration and gave us the flexibility to combine art and history. For consistency, both teams used common item types like person, place, and collection, and these acted as linking points and supported discovery. And then we created tailored item templates where the collection genuinely differed. So for historical objects, artworks, and photographs. How this comes together will become apparent when we look at the live system. With only a short amount of time, I'd like to focus on some of the browser widgets we use as discovery layers. Recollect supports multiple entry points to the same data, which lets us cater to the different way people search and the way they actually think about art and history. So I'm going to highlight the collections widget, the topic widget, and the geomap widget. And the best way to do this is from within our collection. So just let me pull up our live collection. So from here, you can see that this is our homepage, that we use multiple collections, multiple widgets. So we have a collection widget, we have a topic widget, and we also have the geomap. But what I'm going to do is jump into our visual arts and public art collection. The art collection lends itself to different ways of searching, so it's a great example of how we got these collections, these widgets to work. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and start with the geomap. We use this for our public art and mural collection, which is inherently tied to place, so they're ideal for map-based discovery. We have approximately 80 permanently cited public works. And through the map, users can find artworks by the location, so whether they're planning a walk, exploring their neighbourhood, or standing in front of a mural. So the coloured circles represent clusters of items, and by clicking on them, the map zooms in to where the artworks are. So this is our Osborne Library site, and clicking on pins will show the artwork that we have there. Then a user can click on a particular artwork and pull up a great picture and then a description and some connections, so a connection to the artist. What I found really interesting was that when we launched, it was our own staff that used the map. They searched their current location, and from there they'd find the sculptures or artwork that they passed every day, and then they'd link into it to find more of a description, and then into the artists and into other works that artist had done. So if we go back to the visual art and public art page, we also use the topic widget. So Recollect already offers standard search and filtering, but this widget makes Medium a primary way to navigate across 16 or more mediums. We did this because it mirrors how people talk about art. You may like sculptures in particular, and so it makes the collection more approachable for both non-experts and experts. You don't need to know an artist or a title, you can just start browsing. Alternatively, you may be an expert or studying a particular medium, and you might want to go directly to those works. For us, it uses the strength of the collection to spark discovery. If we go back to the homepage, bear with me, for the arts collection, the final widget that we used was the collection widget. So this allows us to showcase particular collections, and we're particularly proud to showcase our Aboriginal art collection. This has more than 50 artworks from contemporary First Nation artists. The collection is guided by the city's Reconciliation Action Plan and our art acquisition policy, which together shapes how the collection is developed and cared for. It's important to note at this point that consultation with local elders and community groups is ongoing for both the art and history collections. While the collection currently focuses on artworks themselves, Recollect will let us later include deeper cultural narratives where and when that's appropriate. But from here, we can see the artworks and they link through to the artist. So I've used Norma MacDonald as an example. And from here, we can see connections in her, with her biography and the artworks that she's connected to and any person records that she's connected to. And I've chosen this record because it helps highlight an important Recollect feature. So Recollect allows us to redact assets that we don't want visible to the public. From my staff login, I can see the image, but the public sees only a placeholder. The portrait of Norma was part of a separate project where Aboriginal artists were invited to paint a portrait of an elder. As part of the project, we weren't given permission to have the picture or the portrait on our website. And as a staff member, I can scroll down and see that information. So Recollect allows us to have one repository for our whole collection while still adhering to any copyright or publishing restrictions we may have. If I go back to the Norma record, we also have connections on the right-hand side to related people. So I can go into Robin Jean, who was actually the artist who painted the portrait. And I can go into Emily Rose, who's the granddaughter of Norman MacDonald. From here, you can see that we're still working on some of these biographies, but I can also go into other artworks. And I think this is where the magic actually happens. From this artwork, I can see a description and I can see connections. This artwork is situated in Lake Gwelup, and so users can go into the related place record and see a history of Lake Gwelup. And then further to that, they can see the historical photos, any other artworks that are located at Gwelup or about Gwelup, related places, community history documents, any other collections, and we've even got an oral history interview. If I go back to our main page just quickly, I can see community history records here. And community history leans heavily into the collections widget. Each collection brings together historical items with person and place records. And here collections function as a narrative, helping users understand how individual objects relate to people, places, and broader historical themes. So again, we get a large record of photos, videos that are related to our coastal collection, objects, related places, related person records, some oral history interviews. We've got over 10,000 items or records in the history collection at the moment, and the connections that we have make it easy to get lost in the depth and the richness of the collection. So let me bring you back to the slides. Connecting the collections. I guess this is the real payoff of bringing everything onto one platform. Person and place item types act as shared linking points across both art and history. It gives us a single search experience while each collection keeps its own identity. And then a user can move from an artwork to its artist and then onto a related place or a historical photograph, following the relationships between records rather than hitting dead ends. And discovery becomes about the connections and encourages the serendipitous finds. So to wrap up, the Stirling Arts and History Collection is still very much a work in progress, and we have many items still to digitise and collect connections to make. But it also shows how collaboration between library, heritage and arts can create a single platform that serves multiple audiences and opens up real opportunities for discovery and storytelling. Our next step is to use the exhibition module to bring out the stories within the collection. I encourage you to come back later and explore our collection further. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Rachel. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for coming along and presenting that. I think you very eloquently showcased what I believe, and I'm sure Roger will attest to as well, is Recollect's key strength, which is that linked data model. So yes, whilst we've got all those item types, but have that linked data model where you can, as you say, serendipitously navigate between related items and places and people. It's fantastically illustrated. Thank you for that. And one thing that came to mind, I think it was in a similar webinar that we had with Northern Beaches. So they also used the map to showcase their art collection, but not just from within Recollect. They then went a further step and put QR codes actually on the artwork in that location, and then users could then go in and scan that QR code and get the link into Recollect to then get that further information. So it reminded me of something that we'd had in a previous webinar. So thank you very much once again. It was a fantastic presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, to all of our attendees, if you do have any questions for Rachel about how they're using Recollect, their collection, anything about Recollect, please drop that into the chat and we can review that. And just while we're waiting for people to enter any queries that they've got, Roger obviously gave an overview and introduction of Recollect, very high level, and then a bit of a focus on some of the artwork and how that can be showcased in Recollect. If anyone is interested in looking at Recollect further, we'd be more than happy to provide a tailored demonstration for people. Just please get in touch with us through the email connections that you would have received, and we'll also be sending out a recording or a link to the recording that you can share with other people. So there'll be information in there about how to get in contact with us. So if you wanted to see a more in-depth demonstration of Recollect and perhaps how it might relate to your collection, we'd love the opportunity to do that. So I'm just looking at the chat there at the moment, and other than seeing some people that had some connection issues early on, I don't actually see anyone with any questions. Maybe we all did such a great job of illustrating everything today. It's all clear. I know we've got Margaret, I think, typing a query there for us.
And thanks, Louise. Typo corrected.
Oh, the tired, tired privileges. Not a question, just a comment. It's been great for stock take as well. Okay, yeah, so definitely be able to know where you've got items and where they're located and how many of them you've got. Absolutely. Reports. Is Margaret one of your team, Rachel?
No.
I don't know where Margaret is from, but we've got a question here from Susie. Does Recollect allow local history libraries to manage get tongue-tied on that one, bibliographic records for published items that have not been digitised?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, Roger.
Yes, it does. So you can set up the record to begin with, and once you've digitised your content, then you can add the digital items to those records, if that's what you want to do. Margaret from Western Sydney Uni, of course.
Okay, that's the Margaret. Hello, Margaret.
Yeah. You can see that
one of our existing clients with Western Sydney University. So a question from Ren, great presentation. I missed about the app used to exhibit the 3D objects in Recollect. So I'll let Roger talk to that again, but it is actually an embedded feature in Recollect, if that's the one you were talking about, rather than the 3D art exhibit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, either one, please review the recording when you send it to it, because you'll see the demonstration of it then. But the Matterport software is easily downloaded. You can add it to your phone, then you can use your phone to take those screen grabs of a particular location. And then it's as simple as adding those up, uploading those to the cloud platform, and it'll create the walkthrough itself and provide you with a link that you can then add to Recollect. If you're talking about the 3D object view, well, that's already embedded in Recollect as a function. You just need to scan or photograph at least your physical objects in 3 dimensions, and that's something that a professional would need to do for you, and provide us with OBJ files, which Recollect will ingest, and then you'll be able to view it in 3D from the item view.
Good. Thank you. And I think that might be, no, I think we may have one last question coming in from Susie, perhaps. So Susie's curious about the metadata standards, and this was a really easy one to answer, which I'm sure all of our clients who are online are aware. And it's so easy I can answer it, is that Recollect is actually built to every client's requirements as far as metadata is required. So you could have numerous standards, an Australian series system, as well as a total separate
mark or mods or double and core.
You could have, double and core. You could have 4 or 5 different standards implemented at the same time if you wanted. Not that you probably would do that, but we do find, because a lot of people, once they have seen Recollect and understand how that linked data model works, will start with a standard, whether that be double and core or mark, and then look to then hybridize that to improve on some of that linked data model that can be used. So yes, any metadata standard can be applied in Recollect. And a question here from Bayu, but if the collection is moved or destroyed, will the description and location statements also change to reflect the facts of the digital object? Should the digitisation process begin, or should it be mapped first? I think if you're referring here to a physical collection is moved.
Yeah, so you can then, if you were to move physical objects that you'd already catalogued in Recollect as collection items, you can then do an update of those particular items with the new locations of those items, if that answers any of that question.
Yeah, so it won't update automatically. It would be a requirement to go in as an editor to update that information in Recollect.
Can I just say, Richard, we do this all the time with our art collection. It moves on a regular basis, and so we can show current location, but also past location, just so we have an idea of where things have moved from and to.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. And as part of that, you can also put a date at which the artwork is perhaps loaned as well as maintenance reports of an artwork, what condition it leaves in, what condition it comes back in. You saw there, Rachel showed some of that admin information about costing and evaluations of artworks as well that can be just kept to administrator level only.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we've exhausted the questions that.
Susie's still typing something.
Okay. But whilst there might be one last one coming in, I'll take this opportunity once again to thank Rachel. Thank you very much again for coming along and joining today's presentation. As I say, it was a pleasure to see how you're able to demonstrate and illustrate how that linked data model in Recollect's been put to use for your art collection and all of your local history. It's fantastic. So thank you very much. And of course, thank you also to Roger and Christine and today's presentation and coordinating. And again, thank you to everyone for coming along. We have recorded today's session, and so you will get an email following this with a link to that recording if you needed to watch it again, or if you wish to share that with any of your other colleagues. And of course, we welcome the opportunity to provide that tailored demonstration to anyone who'd like to have a look. So thank you all very much. And
I might just touch on what Susie's asked there in terms of thesauri. You can add control vocabulary to your items so that you get a drop-down menu of particular vocabulary that you want to include in the metadata, if someone else is doing that for you.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you all very much, and thanks for coming along, and we hope to see you again at another one of our presentations. Thank you.
Thank you then. Thanks, Rachel. Cheers then, everyone.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye. Bye.